Pierre watched from a distance, now fully realizing the magnitude of his mistake. He hadn't just rejected a famous guest, he had risked a scandal for the restaurant. More importantly, he had learned a bitter lesson. Judging someone by appearance alone is deeply wrong. The restaurant buzzed with energy and excitement. Patrons shared Ozzy stories. Some played Black Sabbath songs on their phones, and for the first time, La Tao Royal departed from its traditionally formal atmosphere, becoming warm and welcoming. During dessert service, Antoine brought his entire staff to Ozzy's table. "Mr. Osbourne," he said, his voice filled with respect and sincerity, "you've honored our restaurant tonight, but more importantly, you've taught us a valuable lesson. We should never judge people by appearances. True quality, true art, true passion, these always lie beneath the surface." Antoine looked at Pierre and gestured for him to come forward. Pierre approached, ashamed, unable to lift his eyes. "Mr. Osbourne," Pierre said, his voice trembling, "I apologize for how I treated you. It was an unforgivable mistake, and I am truly sorry." Ozzy looked at him, expression unreadable behind his glasses. Then he slowly stood and placed a hand on Pierre's shoulder. "You know," he said, "when I was a kid, I wasn't right for school. When I stepped onto the metal scene, I wasn't right for the music industry. And now apparently I'm not right for La Tao Royale," Ozzy said, pausing to look into Pierre's eyes. "But here's what I've learned. Sometimes the greatest art, the deepest music, the most genuine expression comes from exactly those places that don't fit in." The entire restaurant listened in silence. "I was a poor kid working in a slaughterhouse in Birmingham," Ozzy continued. "I was dyslexic, had a speech impediment, and failed at nearly everything. But music found me. I created music just by being myself, with all my flaws, with all my madness." Ozzy smiled gently at Pierre. "So I forgive you. We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them. And perhaps next time, that strange-looking person who walks in might be the next great artist, the next great musician, or simply a remarkable human being." Antoine's eyes filled with tears. Applause erupted, starting with a few claps and growing into a full standing ovation from the entire restaurant. Marie approached, holding a Black Sabbath CD from her father's collection. "Would you sign this, please?" she asked. Ozzy smiled and signed it. "To Marie and your father, thank you for how music brings us together. With love, Ozzy Osbourne." Antoine approached Ozzy and said, "Mr. Osbourne, to honor your experience tonight, I'd like to add a permanent dish to our menu named after you, La Ozzy, in memory of inspiration and unprejudiced thinking." As the night went on, La Tao Royal transformed from a luxury French restaurant into a warm, welcoming space celebrating music and human values. Closing time came and went, but no one wanted to leave. At one point, Philippe started playing Crazy Train on his phone, and the entire restaurant, waiters, cooks, even Antoine, sang along. Ozzy smiled and nodded to the beat, content to simply listen. At the end of the evening, Ozzy shook Antoine's hand. The food was incredible, but the lesson was even more valuable. "Perhaps one day I'll come to your kitchen and see how it's all done." Antoine's face lit up. "That would be an honor, Mr. Osbourne. Our doors are always open to you." As Ozzy left, the staff lined up to see him off. Pierre stood by the door, still flushed with embarrassment. Ozzy paused as he passed him. "Don't forget to bring a jacket," he said with a slight smile. "It's getting cold." Pierre smiled and nodded gratefully. Outside, Ozzy gazed into the Paris night. He wasn't the only thing that had changed. Perhaps small steps were being taken toward a world where people judged others not by appearances, but by the heart and soul. As he waited for his taxi, he thought about telling Sharon about the evening. His wife would probably have a few choice words for Pierre, but Ozzy wanted to preserve the night just as it was, a beautiful memory of music, food, and people beginning to truly see each other. If this story touched you and reminded you of the importance of not judging others by appearances, please remember to like and share. Sometimes the most valuable life lessons come from unexpected people, and like Ozzy Osbourne, we all deserve second chances and open-mindedness. True beauty and value always lie beneath the surface. See you in our next story. The moment legendary rock star Ozzy Osbourne stepped into the Michelin-starred Parisian restaurant, the doorman wrinkled his nose at the sight of a man draped in black jewelry and seemed ready to turn him away. Yet within hours, the same restaurant would erupt in applause, glasses would be raised in his honor, and that haughty attendant would receive a lesson he would never forget. The Prince of Darkness carried himself with such dignity that night that everyone present learned something profound, something no book could teach. Here are all the details of that unforgettable evening, shared millions of times online, showing how easily appearances can deceive. Light from crystal chandeliers danced across burgundy velvet walls at La Tau Royale, one of Paris's most prestigious dining venues. Chef Antoine Bouvier ran his kitchen flawlessly, earning 3 Michelin stars for 3 consecutive years. The restaurant's clientele included world leaders, European nobility, and top figures from international business. For Antoine, every detail mattered. Perfectly pressed tablecloths, polished silverware, and a team trained to perfection. But above all, he cared about the restaurant's image and the profile of its guests. On that chilly September evening, Ozzy Osbourne arrived in Paris ahead of a concert scheduled 2 days later. With his long black hair, signature round glasses, rings on every finger, and necklaces adorned with crosses and charms, he made an unmistakable entrance. Although Ozzy mentioned his reservation upon arrival, the change in Maître de Pierre's expression was immediate. Pierre recognized him, yet his face revealed that recognition did not translate into a welcome. "I'm sorry, sir," Pierre said, scrutinizing Ozzy from head to toe. "I'm afraid we cannot accommodate you tonight. We're completely full." When Ozzy looked around, he could clearly see empty tables. "I think there must be a mistake," he said calmly. "I have a reservation under the name Gabriel." Pierre glanced at his computer and pursed his lips. "Ah, yes, Mr. Gabriel. However, we require a tie and jacket, and I'm afraid your attire doesn't meet our restaurant's standards. Perhaps I could suggest somewhere more suitable." A young waitress, Marie, who had overheard the conversation, was visibly shocked. She instantly recognized Ozzy Osbourne. He was her father's favorite musician, and Black Sabbath albums were a constant presence in their home. "But Pierre," Marie interjected, her voice trembling, "this is Mr. Osbourne, the world-famous Ozzy Osbourne." Pierre raised a hand to silence her. "That doesn't matter, Marie. Rules apply to everyone. We maintain standards." Hearing the commotion from the door, Chef Antoine emerged from the kitchen and headed straight toward the scene. Ozzy remained composed, though the hurt in his eyes was apparent. He had faced similar prejudices throughout his life. Growing up in Birmingham's working-class neighborhoods, he recognized those looks that made him feel unworthy. Despite his accomplishments, selling hundreds of millions of albums, becoming a rock legend, and even meeting the Queen, some people still judged him solely on appearance. "It's all right," Ozzy said in his slight Birmingham accent. "I can go somewhere else. I just left my jacket in the car." Antoine quickly understood the situation. Pierre had rejected a guest based on appearance. Worse, that guest was Ozzy Osbourne. Antoine's face flushed not with anger but with shame. Most patrons were now watching. Some had recognized Ozzy and whispered among themselves. At one table, a French businessman excitedly pointed him out to his companions. A woman at a nearby table had pulled out her phone and begun recording the incident. "Mr. Osbourne." "Please wait," Antoine said, stepping forward. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I'm Chef Antoine Bouvier, owner and head chef of this restaurant." Ozzy looked at him with kind, tired eyes behind his glasses. "No problem, chef," he replied. "Sorry for any trouble. To be honest, I've come to expect being turned away sometimes when I'm in casual clothes. I'm used to it by now." Antoine felt a deep sense of embarrassment. Before him stood a man who had reached the pinnacle of his career yet remained humble. "Mr. Osbourne, it would be a great honor to host a musical genius like yourself," Antoine said sincerely. "Please take our best table. Tonight your dinner will be our gift to you as my special guest." He shot Pierre a stern look. Pierre's face had gone pale, finally realizing the gravity of his mistake. "I'd like to serve you a special menu prepared by my own hands," Antoine continued. "I'll customize it to be worthy of a heavy metal legend." Ozzy hesitated briefly. Over his life, many had judged him harshly, yet he believed in giving second chances, something he had often received himself. "All right," he finally said with a slight smile. "But on one condition, she'll be the one serving me." He pointed to Marie. "She seems to be the only one who actually recognizes me." Marie's eyes widened. Her face flushed and she nearly stumbled from excitement. Antoine led Ozzy to the restaurant's finest table by the window, overlooking Paris. Other diners glanced over, whispers spreading. Can you believe it? Ozzy Osbourne. Didn't Pierre recognize him? Remember when we got tickets for that Black Sabbath concert? Marie approached Ozzy's table, trembling as she extended the menu. Mr. Osbourne, it's an incredible honor to have you here. My father is your biggest fan. He still keeps all your records, Ozzy smiled kindly. Your father has good taste in music. Give him my regards, Marie nodded, barely holding back tears. What can I recommend for you? Ozzy scanned the menu. I'm ready to try anything the chef suggests. People sometimes think I'm a bit mad, but I'm just an ordinary bloke who loves good food and good music. Marie took notes and hurried to the kitchen to relay Ozzy's words to Antoine. Meanwhile, a businessman seated near Ozzy's table stood and approached respectfully. Mr. Osbourne, excuse me, he said in fluent English. I don't want to disturb you, but I just wanted to tell you that you changed my life. Ozzy looked surprised. The man continued. When I was 16, I went through a very difficult time. My family had fallen apart and I was about to drop out of school. Then one day I heard your song Changes and I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like you were speaking directly to me. That song gave me the strength to carry on. Ozzy's eyes softened. Hearing how his music had touched people always moved him deeply. That means a lot, he said sincerely. Knowing music can have that kind of impact, that's why I do what I do. I'm really glad to hear that. Felipe handed Ozzy his business card. I now own a technology company. If you need anything while you're in Paris, please call me. It would be an honor to do whatever I can for you. Other patrons observing the interaction grew inspired. Soon Ozzy's table was surrounded by people wanting to speak with him, get an autograph, or simply express their gratitude. One woman shared that her son had taken up guitar because of Ozzy and was now studying at a conservatory. An elderly couple revealed that their first date had been at a Black Sabbath concert, and they had now been married for 40 years. Each story highlighted the profound and lasting impact of Ozzy's music. In the kitchen, Antoine was preparing the most important meal of his career. He blended classic French culinary techniques with touches inspired by Ozzy's English roots. Each dish was a work of art, both visually and in flavor. Antoine, typically a chef who rarely left the kitchen, decided to serve each course personally. As he presented each dish, he bowed respectfully to Ozzy and explained the inspiration behind it. This cold soup is a tribute to Birmingham's industrial heritage, he said, presenting one dish. I've modernized a classic English pea and ham soup using French techniques. Ozzy savored each bite, appreciating Antoine's passion and creativity. Chef, this is truly extraordinary, he said as the main course arrived. I've dined at restaurants all over the world, but I've rarely seen this level of creativity and dedication. Antoine's eyes lit up. He had served many famous figures before, but Ozzy's genuine appreciation touched him differently. Perhaps it was because Ozzy's music reflected the same passion, creativity, and perfectionism that Antoine valued in his craft.